Welcome to Words Unwritten, where we talk about how to create a greater impact on your world and your work through thoughtful communication and a rebellious mindset. I'm your host, Nino, writer, poet, copywriter, ghostwriter, and the owner of the Writers Rebellion. So, to all the artists, entrepreneurs, rebel writers, and change makers, let's get into it. For today's episode, I wanted to talk about copywriting. So, this is my bread and butter. For the most part, this is the industry that I've been in for a minute now. And I think a lot of people think of copywriting as like this words that sell. That's the thing I hear a lot. It's words that sell, right? And it's very it gives MLM. Like it gives this sleazy, manipulative kind of vibe to it, and a lot of times. And I think we've really been used to that. And we're all so used to being sold to. Like, I don't remember what the statistic for it was, but it was like a ridiculous number between like how much bombardment we as consumers get sold to on a regular basis versus where it was in the early 2000s or even in the 90s and stuff. And just because of social media, like literally everyone is selling to us, right? Which also impacts the efficacy of copywriting. Because if you're always getting the same tactic thrown at you, right, it makes it less impactful. And so I think we're seeing a lot now where copywriting is not, at least the traditional way of doing copywriting, is not doing what it used to do, even 4 years ago or so, you know? Not that it's like not effective, it's just not packing the punch that it used to pack, especially with like the more traditional way of doing it and stuff. Like there's a lot of people who are starting to do copywriting in a more ethical and informed kind of way, which is fantastic. That's what we absolutely need. But in this episode, I wanted to talk a little bit more about the mentality as an entrepreneur, as somebody who has some sort of audience or customer base, client base, and stuff, how we are communicating through our business language, which is basically copywriting, how you communicate with your audience, with your clients, with your customers is basically copywriting. I don't like the term copywriting is words that sell. I think copywriting is words that inspire action. That's where I like to sit in this like copywriting world here, because I believe that copywriting is immensely powerful, that it is not given the credit it deserves as far as the impact that it can create within the world. And I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about, because this is actually an example I use a lot. But if you look at diet culture, right? We are becoming more and more familiar with diet culture and what this has created within the world at large, and the impact that it has on young people, on everyone and stuff, but particularly young people who are in this phase of life of finding themselves and feeling comfortable in their bodies. Like, I know as a teenager, I was not a person who was comfortable in their body. But that's a whole nother thing. And diet culture it's not a new thing. Like, it's been around for a hot minute, but it being pushed on to the mass population so heavily really started hitting its peak in the 90s and early 2000s. And that's when we started getting more commercials for diets, for like diet pills and all of these things. And so they started using marketing techniques to shame and manipulate people into feeling worse about their bodies, and in order to sell products, diets, books, all of the things, right? And so it caused so much harm, right? Because the products themselves, to start off with, were harmful. And the messaging was based in shame. And really, the way a lot of copywriting, particularly in this wellness space, if you're listening, I just did the air quotes, is based on it's like that toxic ex-boyfriend who likes to pour salt on the wounds of your insecurities, because they focus heavily on the pain points of a person, right? And it's usually the pain points revolving around shame or stigma in their body, right? It's not based on something they innately feel. It's not like, I wish I had more energy, something that anybody can experience. And then through like nutritional changes, all of a sudden you have more energy and stuff, things like that. No, it's based off of your sides. I can't wear a bathing suit because of my belly. And so here's a way to lose that belly fat so you can wear a bathing suit and finally go on vacation, right? It's almost giving people permission to not live their life unless they fit this social norm, this social acceptable body type, right? More air quotes. And that got intensified so much more in the 90s and early 2000s because copywriting played a huge role in that, and the decision behind that, right? And we can now make better decisions. We can now approach copywriting with a more impact mindset on how is this going to affect the audience? How is this going to affect the social awareness around whatever it is? And how can I talk to the customers in a way that is more human, more kind, compassionate, ethical, And so we're so used to writing copy in a way that is more similar to diet culture because it blew the fuck up when, like 90s, early 2000s, everything diet culture blew up. The wellness industry, the fitness industry exploded. And so like they're making all this money. They're making all this money because they're talking to customers in this way. So let's do it. And so then you start seeing it in the finance industry. Then you start seeing it in, multiple aspects of the wellness industry, not just in relation to diet and exercise and stuff. Like you start seeing it in fashion. You start seeing it everywhere because, oh, that's working for them. So we're going to copy it, which is totally normal and human, right? But that's so short-sighted. Nobody thought 2 steps ahead on how this messaging is going to affect the audience, the people, the society. So what I am proposing is that we start thinking about the impact in our messaging, right? Just because copywriting has been done this way for so long doesn't mean it needs to continue. If you go back and read copy from the 1950s, it is so different. It's like from what we see in the 90s and early 2000s, right? The tone is different, the messaging is different, the method of transportation is different, and stuff like that. So when you're approaching your copy, whether you're a writer, whether you are an entrepreneur or whatever, thinking about the impact that your copy has and how to approach it in a way that is going to be more compassionate and hit those emotional points, right? And I think with AI, while I don't dislike AI, I also don't personally vibe with it. And I think that's just because I'm a more artistic person, and I feel like some of the things about AI kind of takes away from the artistry of even simple things, because I personally see art in copywriting. Not a lot of people do. But I think that it has an absolute role in the evolution, because like if we can use AI to take and do better of those, like just have that take over some of the mundane tasks of business, and we can focus on the creative aspect of business. Like that's kind of like merging the best of both worlds, right? Taking the AI strengths and taking our human strengths and combining them together to create something wonderful. Unfortunately, that's not where we're at yet. And so one of the things with a lot of the AI generated copy is it's not very human, which shocker, a robot wrote it. But whenever you're approaching your copy, so I like to use pain points as an example because I think this is the area of copy that is taken as the most sleazy, that the most of that narcissistic ex-boyfriend kind of vibe, and how we can change that. So if you take your pain points and they're feeding into the pain and insecurity and emphasizing it and enhancing that feeling within the customer, to me, that is not ethical. Instead, you can do the exact same thing because obviously you want to talk about what their issue is and how your product or service solves that issue, how it genuinely helps. But to do that, you have to first fully understand the customer. And this is something that a lot of copywriters, a lot of marketing people and businesses don't want to do. They don't want to take the time to genuinely understand what their customers are feeling and experiencing and speaking directly to that. And so when you take the time doing surveys, looking on social media and see what people are saying about their experience with this problem, using their language to communicate your understanding of their experience within that pain point section is going to go so far, because that customer is then going to read that and be like, they get it. They understand what I'm feeling, and that's going to grab their attention deeper and like hold their attention throughout the copy, versus it being more of the, oh fuck yeah, that's right. I mean, like, yeah, I should really do this. I should really do this. I should feel this. I should. And they start shooting on themselves, which is manipulation, right? So you have to understand the impact of what you're doing, the customer themselves, and also like what that brand, what your brand or whatever is really delivering on, and like the actual solution. Like, are you actually providing a solution? What is the actual solution that you're providing to these people and stuff? So when you're approaching your copy or any messaging, really, because like I said, I think copy can be way more expansive than just selling something. I feel like you can use copy in a lot of different aspects, raising awareness about issues, like copy is just to get people inspired to take action. And so wherever you're using your copy, think about those things first before you even touch a single word. Ground yourself in that mentality of how this is affecting the reader, how this is affecting like the overall social norm of things, how it may affect society, like, is this compassionate? Is this because you don't want to give off that narcissistic ex-boyfriend vibe to your customers or to your readers and stuff? And I think the more we can do what I call conscious copywriting, the more we're going to help each other rise. And also, when you're taking this approach and writing your copy in a more conscious way, you're also not having a lot of that sales pressure. If you're understanding who they are, if you're targeting the right people and stuff, and then you're communicating to their true heart point, to their true issue, and then having something truly there that solves their issue, you're not going to need to do a lot of selling. I always feel like your CTAs should feel like an invitation. It should feel like an invitation to a party that they really want to join, right? And so, and also having options to make it easier for them, to participate in things is always great. Payment plans when possible, like things like that. So anyways, I could talk about this so long. In fact, I am creating a whole course that is more in depth on copywriting um, and using and going about it in a way that is a little bit more next level. It's beyond the basics. And it's a little bit more about that data mining process where you're, like, how do you understand your customer more? How do you understand the brand in a deeper way? How do you communicate that, in a side-by-side comparison? So I'm working on that. I'll let you know when it's out. But basically with this episode, all I wanted to really convey was that your copy is so powerful because words are powerful. This is how we communicate as humans, is through our words. So when you're using your words, think about where that's coming from. Think about the impact that that has. Even something as simple as selling your coaching program, or raising awareness about an issue that you're passionate about, you can do it in a way that is empowering. And if we even look so far out to like activist groups, I'm going to use vegan activists as an example because I think that it's a very relatable example. When I was doing more activism within the vegan community, it was so shame-based. And I understand you're very emotional, you're very emotionally impacted by what's happening to animals and stuff. But it was so much to me like evangelical fear-based, shame-based messaging and stuff, right? The messages that got me to be vegan, the things that got me wanting to participate in action were things that inspired hope, because like so much of the intensity around any sort of activism is shame, it's pain, it's dark, it's like it's pressure, it's angry. And like while all of those are completely valid emotions and can absolutely be intertwined in the message, if all you have is this heavy message, eventually with all of the stuff people have on in their lives and stuff, it just feels too heavy. And like, for example, when the vegan movement and stuff like that, a lot of it feels like no matter what you do, you can't do enough and stuff. And some of the sometimes with activists, they can make it seem like if you're not doing everything, you might as well be doing nothing. And that message is so heavy. And if we look at it through copywriting, if we think about like that approach, if we were trying to sell a course and we had this like heavy messaging and stuff, people would be like, fuck that. So why would our activism be any different? And that's why I'm saying like copywriting is so powerful, and it's not just for sales, because you can use these same copywriting tactics in your messaging on your social media posts trying to raise awareness about the genocide happening in Gaza. You can use the same messaging in your vegan activism to raise awareness about, the animal factory farming, right? Like you can use this same method of just like, yes, these things are so painful and these things are so hard, but like here's something that inspires a little bit and adds a little bit of lightness. May not be the right word for this, because that can like that can kind of be one of those happy, and like obviously there's nothing happy happening in a factory farm or in Gaza right now, but like showcasing the wins, like, okay, we're not there yet, but we're doing it, we're getting there, we're having these changes happen, and showcasing the little highlights of the movement towards where we want to go, to inspire people to keep going on it, instead of using shame as saying like, you're not doing enough, like this is happening but it's not enough. Because when people feel like no matter what they do is not enough, they just give up. And so copywriting is just a way of communicating to people to inspire them to make the action, take the movements that you're wanting them to do and stuff. You can use copywriting techniques of communication in politics, in, I mean, so many ways. And it just makes things more clear for whoever is on the receiving end of that communication. And it is powerful in so many ways, you know? So now I've like gone on a tangent and stuff. There will be more copywriting episodes to come. I didn't want this to be a copywriting podcast because that's like what I do predominantly at the moment, but I did want to talk about the impact of it because it is so powerful and it is so important to approach it with a compassionate mindset, with an impact mindset, and with impact in mind. Um, and it can be used to change the world. It is so overlooked, in my opinion, on the impact that it can have to shift for positive change. So, with that being said, thank you so much for listening. Please like, subscribe, follow, review, do all of the things. Your support is life-giving. Most importantly, remember that words are powerful. So go out there and make some magic, and let's start a revolution.